Tonight's is in the financial wheeler-dealer theme, which we're running. What with Michael always talking about The Big Short after...
OK, this could be interesting.
And this one comes from Quentin. Thank you, Quentin. Before I start my confession, I must point out that myself and my friend in question are 40-something investment bankers. I often think our friendship was forged by the fact that we worked long hours, we're of similar age and backgrounds, and we're making our way in the heady 90s banking industry. In hindsight, I think our friendship is probably more due to the fact that no one else wants to be friends with us. I understand. Perhaps many of the listeners would think being an investment banker in pre-crisis London would be a deed enough for forgiveness. And in this, there might be a case to be answered. Let's call my friend Steve, because that's his name and he doesn't deserve anonymity. This singular confession was prompted by the request for knee surgery confessions. Quite a specialist window that we were looking for. Surely a unique opportunity for me to partly unburden my dark soul. The story begins in the early noughties when my colleague and I were quietly competitive in long-distance running and drinking. The odd 10k or half marathon in a picturesque seaside town gave us an opportunity for a weekend away. A few beers before, a few beers after, returning to our wives on the Sunday with our halo shining and another gaudy ribboned medallion to hang on the coat hook by the door. Well, the rigorous training required for a hobby that requires both running and drinking is something that requires true dedication. As time went on, the hours of road training definitely took a backseat to the pub training. Often we would stand on a chilly Saturday morning amongst the finely sculpted participants, smelling of tequila rather than deep heat, but we always finished our races and enjoyed our first pint wrapped in a tinfoil blanket, which we called the pint of essential rehydration. Just remember that. The weekend in question began with my wife's news that her mother was coming to spend the weekend, surely mitigating circumstances for any worthy confession. Without pausing for a second, I excused myself from the weekend with a story of running a half marathon with Steve. We'd run this particular half marathon in question the year before, enjoying the town with the added bonus of a fine pub just over the finish line. But it's all planned, I whined. We've got the train tickets and the hotel and everything. I thought I told you we always run this race. Steve is going for his personal best. The perfect crime instigated a hasty phone call to Steve. We just had to enter the race 4 days before the start date. Now, this is where I have to ask forgiveness. The race website closed. I called the organisers to be told quite firmly that the amateur entry had been closed for some time. There were only a few professional places available. I breezily said, "Oh, that's okay, then my colleague was a professional marathon runner, and I am his running coach and physio." Well, the questions about professional affiliation were deftly avoided by explaining that Steve was recovering from knee surgery and was looking for a low-key warm-up race before relaunching his professional career. Now, I must point out that the story about Steve recovering from knee surgery was actually true. However, tearing a cartilage, hurdling a set of road cones with a kebab in his hand would probably not have held much water with the Amateur Athletics Association. Is that not an event? Road cone hurdling with kebab?
Should be, shouldn't it? Yeah.
Could be fun. The forms were duly faxed and completed with a suitable running history fabricated. New York, 2 hours 35. London, 2 hours 40. Marathons as far afield as Machu Picchu and the Marathon des Sables. Steve was truly a widely ranged professional athlete. Grinning mischievously to ourselves, we set off on the train, enjoying our first G&T of the weekend away. The lie began to unravel early on Saturday as we staggered, hungover and sweaty, to registration. We were given our starter packs, including our race numbers. Number 25, number 26. Told we were late, we were escorted by organisers to the professional runners' starting point. Here, groups of young gazelle-like athletes were stretching and prancing around. The odd glistening athlete gave interviews to the press. To say that Steve and I did not look like athletes that day would be stating the obvious. Slightly portly, smelling of curry, and Steve, having forgotten his running singlet, wearing a creased Frankie Says Relax t-shirt.
What?
It was difficult to be inconspicuous. The start was only more embarrassing as we lined up in front of the press and crowd for the pre-race photo shoot. The starting gun went, and even at our fastest sprint, we could not avoid the angry pushing and cajoling of the professionals charging past us at their half-marathon pace. After 500 metres and just out of sight, we collapsed on the grass, gasping for breath. At first the amateurs went past, then the fun runners, and finally the children. Even the man in full suit of armour clumped past us. So we need forgiveness. Long-suffering wife and mother-in-law, of course. Forgiveness from the people who gave up their Saturday to support such a wonderful race. Forgiveness from the professional athletes who take their running more seriously than us. Forgiveness from the fun runners, even the children who take their running more seriously than us. But mainly, Forgiveness from the man who on that hot, sweaty Saturday afternoon was running the half marathon in a full suit of armour, which Steve and I managed to beat by 2 seconds in the end. I throw both Steve and myself on the mercy of the collective. I must add that although I am no longer an investment banker, Steve is now a very senior one in an international firm and keeps all of his running medals on the wall of his glass corner office. Well, very nice, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of running and half marathon confessions on the way. Let's see what Sister Bobby from the Priory makes of Quentin's confession.
Well, I'm slightly worried that you're even still married, because it seems that you spend every single weekend away from your seemingly lovely wife and never spending any time together. I don't know how you got away with it for so long, that the wives didn't kind of come along and join and watch and kind of cheer along and go, well done. I'm not sure it's essential, actually, that for training that you drink alcohol. I don't think that's true. I don't know whether it's worth the forgiveness, because it's not like you were running for charity and you weren't really even running for your own fitness. So I'm going to be pretty tough here, Quentin. Yeah. You are not forgiven.
Brother Matthew.
How is Steve getting anywhere near any running medals if he can't last 500 metres before collapsing on the side?
Poor.
Yeah, but, and turns up reeking of booze and curry. I mean, what on earth is going on there? Number one, when I heard this was a confession from an investment banker, I had something else on my mind. But I am...
Class war?
Yeah, probably. I am going to blame the organisers here, because there was clearly no due diligence done here on just exactly who this so-called professional athlete is. And if he turns up looking like he does in a Frankie Says Relax t-shirt, as I say, reeking of booze and curry, and clearly not an athlete, then it's frankly the organisers' fault.
And so therefore...
I forgive.